Jack the Ripper, the killer who vanished without a trace. In 1888, fear gripped the streets of London as a shadowy figure known as Jack the Ripper brutally murdered women in the Whitechapel district. His killings were gruesome, precise, and left behind a terrifying mystery. Who was he?
No! 瞬く間に300万もし、ロンドンを恐怖のどん底に陥れ、悪の中の悪、漆黒の闇を心に抱く、その男の名は、人類史上最も著名な殺人鬼。
Hey, welcome back to the episode, The Fook You Thought. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about one of the most historical hit mysteries of them all. The most infamous killer of them all, Jack the Ripper. Now, who is Jack the Ripper, you say? Jack the Ripper is an unidentified serial killer back in the districts of London in 1888. He's been terrorizing and he has been elusive to the police. No identity has been found, nothing about him, but he has murdered a lot of prostitutes and women. He is one of the most infamous. But on today's topic, we are here to discuss his so-called identity and what has been found about him. Now, it is said forensic scientists say they have finally figured out the identity of Jack the Ripper, the notorious serial killer who terrorized the streets of London more than a century ago. Genetic test published this week points to Aaron Kaminsky, a 23-year-old Polish barber and a prime police suspect at the time. But critics say the evidence isn't strong enough to declare this case closed. The results come a forensic examination of a stained silk shawl the investigators said was found next to the mutilated body of Catherine Edwards, the killer's fourth victim in 1888. The shawl is speculated with what is claimed to be blood and semen, the latter believed to be formed from the killer. 4 other women in London were also murdered in a 3-month spree, and the culprit has never been confirmed. This isn't the first time Kaminsky has been linked to the crimes, but is the first time that supporting DNA evidence has been published in a peer-reviewed journal. The first genetic tests on the shawl samples were conducted several years ago by Yari Lumani, a biochemist at Liverpool, John Moores University in the United Kingdom, my bad. But he said to wait for the fuss to die down before he submitted the results. Author Russell Edwards, who bought the shawl in 2007 and gave it to Lual, used the unpublished results of the test to identify Kaminsky as a murderer in a 2014 book called Naming Jack the Ripper. But genetics complained at the time that it was impossible to access the claims because few technical details about the analysis of genetic samples from the shawl were available. The newspaper lays those out up to a point, and what Lou and his colleague David Miller, a reproduction and sperm expert at the University of Leeds in United Kingdom, claim is the most systematic and most advanced genetic analysis to date regarding Jack the Ripper's murders. Semen. They described extracting and amplifying the DNA from the shawl. The test compared fragments of mitochondrial DNA, the portion of DNA inherited only from one's mother retrieved from the shawls, with samples taken from a living descendants of Edwards and Kaminsky. The DNA matches that of a living relative of Kaminsky, then concluded in the Journal of Forensic Science. The analyst also suggests the killer had brown hair and brown eyes, which agrees with the evidence from an eyewitness. These characteristics are not surely unique, the authors admit in their paper, but blue eyes are more common than brown in England, the researchers note. The results are unlikely to satisfy critics. Key details on the specific genetic variants identified and compared between DNA samples are not included in the paper. Instead, the authors represent them in a graphic with a series of colored boxes where the boxes overlay, they say, the shawl and modern DNA sequence matched. The authors say in their paper that the Data Protection Act, a UK law designed to protect the privacy of individuals, stops them from publishing the genetic sequence of living relatives of Edens and Kaminsky. The graphic in the paper, they say, is easier for non-scientists to understand, especially those interested in true crime, like myself, and hopefully like you guys too. Walter Persson, a forensic scientist at the Institution of Legal Medicine in Innsbruck Medical University in Austria, says mitochondrial DNA sequence poses no risk to privacy, and the authors should have included them in the paper. Otherwise, the reader cannot judge the result. I wonder where the science and research are going when we start to avoid showing results, but instead present colored boxes. Heinz Weinsteiner, an expert in mitochondrial DNA, also at Innsbruck, also takes issue with the mitochondrial DNA analysis, which he says only can be reliable show that people or the two DNA samples are not related. Based on the mitochondrial DNA, one can only exclude a suspect. In other words, the mitochondrial DNA from Shaw could be from Kaminsky, but it could be also have come from thousands of people who lived in London at that time. Other critics say, however, Kaminsky's theories have pointed out that there is no evidence that the Shaw was ever at a crime scene. It has also been contaminated over the years, they say. The new tests are not the first attempt to identify Jack the Ripper from DNA. Several years ago, U.S. crime author Patricia Cornwell asked other scientists to analyze any DNA in samples taken from letters supposedly sent by the serial killer to police. Based on that analysis and other clues, she said the killer was the painter Walter Strickland. Through many experts believe those letters to be faked. Another genetic analysis of the letters claimed the murder could have been a woman. Now, with all that instead, and all that we have claimed, do you think this guy, Aaron Kaminsky, is the murderer? Do you think Jack the Ripper could have been a woman going after other women and just hated them? What do you think? Now, personally, I think Jack the Ripper is still notorious. Do I think it's his Polish barber? Maybe. But I still think that without right results and without DNA, I still think his identity will still be unknown to this day until further things come out. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think there might be a chance that Aaron Kaminsky might be Jack the Ripper. But I still don't believe it would be a woman. But hey, what is your thoughts on this? Do you think Jack the Ripper his identity has been solved? Do you think it's Aaron Kaminsky? Or do you think it's like what the other people are saying? It could be a woman. That's it for today. Tune in to next episode on Friday. And that will be a special thing at a special place. It's been Ray, and it's been the Food You Thought. See ya.